And then I missed 7 of the last 8 cuts that season and like didn't even keep my card. And I thought I got the driver yips. But lesson learned, I got to the end of the season, found out my driver had been cracked the entire time. So I didn't actually have the driver yips. I'm just an idiot.
This is The Tournament Code.
Appreciate you taking the time to join us today, Andrew. We know a little bit about where you are right now, but before we get into where you are right now, we kind of like to start with every guest at the same spot, which is, how'd you get into the game of golf?
Nobody in my family played. So literally, like a lot of guys my age, kind of Tiger. When I was young, probably 3-4 years old, I wasn't like a big TV kid. Like I wasn't really watching it. And I guess it was, early April, Masters was on. And, this was back when, it was, NBC, ABC, CBS. There wasn't a whole lot of golf on, but Masters was on. So I think my dad had thrown it on. And my parents, I got 2 sisters within 3 years of me, younger. So they were off, with the babies, and I was 3 years old. And they left me like in the room playing or whatever. And they kind of realized I'd been quiet for a while and hadn't, made much noise. And so they went back to check on me, and I was sitting there actually watching TV, watching golf. And so, like, okay. Then they left me. And like an hour later, they came back, and I was still sitting there watching golf. And like way too long of an attention span for a 3-year-old to be doing that. And my birthday's March 31st, so it was a late birthday gift after that. My uncle, they told the whole family, they were laughing about it. He got me a set of like little plastic clubs, and I used to go out in the backyard, and I literally for hours would just. My dad took these, like the flower pots, or like plastic flower pots you can get. He like dug holes in the ground, put them in the ground, and so I had little cups in the backyard, and I would hit the different holes just in the backyard doing that. And that was basically my introduction to golf, and I did that just like hitting around the yard for years, but I never actually my dad didn't play at all. Like I had nobody in my family who played. My grandfather plays a little bit now that he's retired, but that's all I did. And so I kind of learned how to swing, and I had, chipped it around, but mostly it was like putting or chipping or something. It wasn't a whole lot of that. And then when I got to 7th grade in South Carolina, that's when you can try out for the high school team. And so I decided to go do that. Gave it a try. Now, I was terrible. I didn't know how to, I had, proper clubs and stuff. I say that. They weren't really proper clubs. They were probably U.S. kids clubs or something. I don't know. And I went out and, shot 55 for 9 holes from like the up tees and stuff, and didn't make the team. Wasn't even close. Like, whatever. Got cut, but kind of loved it. Like, what I did for a couple days. And went back and talked to my mom. Was like, hey, like, I kind of want to do this. Like, I want to try this. And so we got with a local coach in the area, and he was like, well, why don't you try like some kids clinics first before you just jump straight into lessons? So I did that, loved that, and yeah, started taking lessons, and kind of went from there. So I guess I was probably 12, 13 years old, whatever. Spring 7th grade when I started really working at it.
That is awesome. Were you playing any other sports in the meantime?
Yeah, I played like all the sports growing up. Basketball, I played, team basketball for years. Like that was kind of been my main sport, and I played like a good bit of soccer. I love football, but like I only played like 1 year of that. I don't have pain tolerance for that. Played baseball. Like I played it all growing up. But then once like 7th grade, I kind of like started doing that. I started dropping other ones. Basketball was like the last sport I dropped basically for golf. But that's kind of like I caught the bug, and then I was all in.
At what point did you decide to drop basketball and specialize in golf?
Well, so 7th grade was my last year. I did like with the middle school team, but I played like some rec ball stuff because it was like, it was a lot less of like a time commitment because once I started working at it, I was like going to the range every afternoon. So I couldn't be going to like the school team practice like after school because I was going to cut into the golf time. So I'd play like rec ball where I could, show up at 7 p.m. and just play the games and whatnot.
That is awesome. So you get into golf, probably what many people would call a little later. Myself, I fell into that same category. I didn't start playing competitive tournaments till I was a sophomore in high school. I played similar to you. I was playing soccer. I was playing basketball. I was playing baseball. I was playing about everything except for golf. But you ended up going on and playing in college. Tell us kind of how you got from, okay, I shot 55 over 9 holes in 7th grade to playing in school.
Honestly, it might have been 60. Like 55 might be generous. Like it was bad. But like once I started working at it, I got better quickly because of all those years in like the backyard and all that. Like I could putt, I had good hands, I could chip, like I could feel shots, like stuff that maybe would take longer to develop. I kind of had that because I had feel. I just had literally no idea how to actually swing a golf club. So once I got a coach that started teaching me like what to do, like I like started shaving shots fast. So like by the time 8th grade came around for tryouts, I was like I'd probably shaved 10 to 15 shots. So I went out like that year, shot like a 44 in tryouts, and I got like called all the way. I made it all the way to like the last day, and then played bad that last day. And he decided not to take me, so I got cut twice from the team. But I had like improved a ton that year, and I was still like committed. And I think getting cut that second time was probably the best thing for me because I ended up going to a different high school and loved that like way more. Pretty much like once I caught the bug, I just stayed with it. So like I got progressively like better every year. It was just like the toughest thing for me was like the recruiting process because I started so late. Like I'm sure you kind of had some of that. Like I was still not like I was getting better quick, but like by my sophomore year, I still was like not very good. Like I wasn't even good by my senior year. Like, but I was much better than where I was sophomore year. And by sophomore year, like all these college coaches are taking all these kids. So like, especially I just happened to be coming up in South Carolina where there were so many good players like around my age that all the schools in the area, like the top schools were taking the top guys. And so then even like the mid-tier guys were some solid players and they were filling up spots. So there was like really not a lot of spots at all available at schools in the area. So I ended up only getting one offer from Wofford, and that's where I ended up going. But like by my senior year, I was nationally ranked. Like I was, playing big AJGA events. I almost made the Wyndham Cup team. I was ranked like top 50 on Golf Week and the Polo rankings, I think, by the time I graduated. But I only had one offer. It was so weird, but it all happened like so late because of like the progression of basically I started late, nobody had spots. So it was kind of weird. I'd be playing these like big junior tournaments and I'm beating these kids by a few shots. And I'm like, where are y'all going to school? They're like Alabama, like A&M. And they're asking me where I'm going. I'm having to like explain where Wofford College is. Like that yes, it's D1, like all these things. So it was kind of funny. And I'm glad I went to Wofford. It ended up great for me. But yeah, it was not like the normal junior career. But like the more I talk to people, like a lot of people were like that. It's just like if you get into it late, like you're a little bit behind the 8 ball on getting these scholarships.
Was there a moment in your junior career where you can kind of remember realizing that you're going from a kid that is borderline playing college golf or not, and then beating SEC kids?
Yes and no. Like going back to how I said, like all the South Carolina juniors at the time were like studs. Like that's how I started like playing all these SEC kids, playing all these like ACC top school kids, like all these junior golfers that I came up with, like that's what I was straight thrown into with my junior tournaments. So that's all I had to like kind of look towards is like, oh, I got to like compete with these guys. So I think like the level of competition sort of got me there. And once I was there, like all these guys were going to these schools and that's who I'd just always been competing with. So like I grew up playing like junior golf. Like it was like guys that are PGA Tour players now. Carson Young, like since I was real young, like Ben Griffin, he's on tour now. A lot of like guys that have been Korn Ferry Tour, like Matt Neesmith, he was maybe a year older than me. The number one junior in the world was a year older than me from South Carolina, Cody Prevost. It was like in junior golf, it was literally like him and Jordan Spieth who were going like back and forth constantly. So it was like,
And I'm guessing Stephen Bear
yeah,
Jr. was also in
I
that
think
mix.
2 years older than me. If he could have ever stayed healthy, like he's so good. I mean, he's been killing it on the mid-am stuff lately, I think. But yeah, he was really good too. So there were just so many. We had big kids go to Alabama. Jonathan Hardy, he was like a year younger than me. Keenan Husky, he's doing Q school right now. He's a good player. I bet I would not be surprised to see him on Corn Ferry next year. So there were so many good players back then in my area.
That is stout. Yeah, Steven plays out at the same course I do, and so I get to play with him some. And he can. It's impressive what he can do with a full-time job and still get the ball around really well. So you end up going to Wofford, and you're smoking a lot of the SEC kids in your junior tournaments. What was the transition like to college? Because for a lot of kids, they're the best junior player, etc., and then now they're playing against full-grown men who are 4 years older than them. And I can tell you, at least when I was 19, I was not anywhere near a full-grown man at all. And so when you step into that, sometimes it can be easy depending on who you're playing against, and sometimes it can be harder. Tell us about that transition to college.
One of the things I'm like super proud of with my college career is I was never left at school for a tournament. I played every tournament for all 4 years. But man, I was sneaking into that lineup my freshman year. My freshman year fall, it was definitely it was a transition, man. I was not ready for some of the longer courses. I'm 6'2", but I was pretty scrawny back then. I wasn't, I didn't hit it very far. It was definitely a bit of an adjustment. I didn't mind the 36 hole days as much. I was used to playing a ton of golf, and especially in South Carolina in the summer, it's hot. You kind of get used to some, pretty grindy days. But just it was more so some of the golf courses, and we weren't even playing our schedule was weak. We didn't play these top events, so we weren't even playing the toughest courses. But even still, it was a bit of an adjustment for sure. Especially when I was showing up to tournaments, and the guys I was playing with were driving at 20, 30, 40 by me. I definitely had to lean on my short game a good bit my freshman year. But then kind of by freshman spring, I kind of hit my stride. So my spring was much better than my fall. It was definitely an adjustment period that fall once I started playing.
And then as you got into it, guys are hitting it by you. Is there anything that you've done to then or now to try to pick up speed, try to pick up distance, or did you just kind of grow into it as far as fully filling out? Because again, as I said, same story for me. For context, now that this is about me, but my freshman year of high school, I was 5'4", 150. By senior year of high school, I was 6'1", 175. And probably by the time I was 20, I was close to done growing. I was 6'3", 210. And so it can take a little while to fill out and have everything come in for you.
Now I get in the gym way more than I did back then. I didn't even know what a gym was back then. So that's helped. But also just getting comfortable with my swing. You can literally just gain speed by just swinging a lot. Getting used to it, forcing yourself to swing faster and just getting more comfortable moving everything at those speeds. So that just, as I played, I probably came into college 6'1", 170. When I graduated, I think I might have been 6'2", but when I graduated, I was 6'2", probably closer to 200. And now I'm 6'2", maybe 215, 220. I'm much bigger, broader, stronger than I was back then. So that's definitely helped with speed. But it was back in junior golf, I never really worked on speed because I didn't really need it on the courses we were playing. I never really felt I was hit it too short. Some guys just bombed it, and I was oh, they do that, whatever. But it definitely, once I got to college and being with some of my teammates, I was all right, this is something I do need to get a little bit more comfortable hitting it farther. And it's funny, thinking back to my freshman and sophomore year, when I go back to school, I'll go back. I try and get back at least once a year and play with the team. And I'll go back and play our home course. I'm man, I really used to hit it in some of these spots. What was I doing? There's bunkers that I'm man, I used to if I missed one, this was kind of in play, and I'll be 30, 40 by him now. Not even thinking about them. So it is kind of funny to like think back on that. But the nice thing of like college is like you're still growing, like getting used to it. And like you said, like when you come in, like that 4-year difference is big. Like it's definitely like it can be a shock factor when you first get there.
At what point during your college career did you see the PGA Tour as a possibility?
Definitely not until like I don't even know like PGA Tour. Even my senior year when I was playing well, I don't know if I actually like knew if I could make it to PGA Tour. But like definitely by junior year, I was like thinking I kind of wanted to like try professional golf. Because my junior year is when I started kind of like, especially in the spring, I finally like won my first event and was starting to do well and moving up the rankings. I got individual invite to NCAAs. So that's kind of when I was like, okay, when I'm done, I'll probably want to give this a try. And also, I was like, everything I was doing in school, I was like, I don't want to do any of this stuff. So golf definitely like looked like a better option. And then by my senior year, I started taking steps to actually like not just like prepare myself, but like actually become a professional. Like went up my ring of my senior year and did Mackenzie Q school up in Canada. Took like a whole week off school, went up there and did that. I started like talked to like a few club companies. I ended up settling with Strixon Cleveland, and so it was. I guess my senior year, I started like taking steps to actually like move towards a professional career. But I honestly, like thinking back, I don't know if I was like, oh, I'm definitely making it to the PGA Tour and all that. I just wanted to like, I'd always been kind of like about competing, and I knew I could beat guys that were turning pro, and so I was like, well, if I could beat them, maybe I can beat other people. I don't know where this will take me, but I'm gonna give it a go and have fun with it and see how far it goes.
What was the path like as far as, okay, as we've talked about, you get to college, there's kind of a level switch and you're playing against full grown men some to a degree, but at least they're like, max 4, now maybe 5 years older than you. You get out trying to play professionally. There are guys from in their 40s on down who have, again, could have like 2 times more experience than you have. Tell us about getting out and finding position for yourself.
Like again, same thing with like my professional career. Like it was a bit of an adjustment. Like back in college, like some of those guys like shipped it, but they had no idea how to actually play golf or get the ball in the hole. Then you get to these pro tournaments and like most everybody knows how to get the ball in the hole. So like, I mean, if you don't, you're not going to last very long as a professional golfer. So like, it was definitely an adjustment. Like again, the skill level went up. I think for some guys, like it's not as big a jump because like if you played at Alabama, if you play at some of the top schools like Oklahoma, you play these tough golf courses against the best competition. I was playing at Wofford. We were playing like little country clubs in North Carolina and South Carolina. Like our home course was 6,500 yards from the tips. Like it was a much bigger adjustment for me. Like the competition we were playing, like I could play like some super average golf and still finish like 8th in our college tournaments because the depth just wasn't there like that I was competing against. So for me, I do think like going to professional golf was a bigger jump. But again, I kind of lucked out being from South Carolina. Amateur golf in the summer was like considerably more difficult. Like it was better competition than our college golf at times just because I was playing against like better players locally. So that definitely helped playing stuff like that. But in my pro career, I started up in Canada and like really didn't have the best start. Like my first 2 events were pretty good. I think I like was top. I made like the first 4 cuts, finished like top 30, 3 of the 4. So like it was a pretty good start Mackenzie Tour for me. And then I missed 7 of the last 8 cuts that season and like didn't even keep my card. And I thought I got the driver yips. But lesson learned, I got to the end of the season, found out my driver had been cracked the entire time. So I didn't actually have the driver yips. I'm just an idiot. Which actually was very, I don't know what the, like freeing. Like finding out that you're an idiot, but you don't actually suck is like a really nice confidence boost heading into Q school. And that I think that actually helped me get through Q school my first year. Like, because I was just like riding this high of, wow, I'm actually not bad at golf. It's just like completely not my fault at all. And so then I kind of was just like striping it for a few months after that. but yeah, it was like definitely some like lessons learned like that. Like, take care of your clubs. Like, don't be an idiot. So it, again, kind of like college, my first couple of years pro, like I was still like feeling stuff out. It was like more of a learning curve for me than maybe some. And I was a little slower, like catching on and getting onto the Corn Ferry Tour and getting to the PGA Tour. It was a little slower than some, but like, the progression was there each year.
Yeah. So what was that mindset going into the first time going to Q school, and what was that experience like?
So my first year, because I had Mackenzie, I didn't have to go to pre-qualifying, which was nice. So my first stage I went to was Irish Creek in like just outside of Charlotte. And I didn't know anything about the place, but that ended up being like the best decision for me because that course is almost identical to the course we played in college. So like once I got there, it was like super comfortable. And again, like I said, I was kind of riding that high of like I would literally, I had gotten like a replacement driver head. Like it was a driver I'd never even played. I think it was like the original TaylorMade M1 or maybe it was the second generation M1 or something like that. I literally, like my agent at the time, it was like his head. He was like, here, use this. I was like, fine. And I just like was striping around the course all week and made a bunch of birdie. Like I wasn't even, I think I was leading going into the back nine of the final round. I think I shot 40 on the back nine of the final round. It still was like 10 up on the number. Like it wasn't, I just was like floating on cloud. I didn't even know what I was doing. Like I was just kind of playing golf and making a bunch of birdies and never had like any stress. I ended up going to second stage. I was still riding the same thing, played in Dothan. Same thing. Like I ended up with I won that one by like 3 shots, was like 15 up on the number. Beat a guy named Joaquin Neiman by 3 shots. Like I was just like cruising. I didn't even know what I was doing. Like I didn't even realize that Q school was supposed to be like stressful. I was just like, cruising. And then I got to final stage and that was a bit of a rude awakening. And I actually played okay, but like missed the number by 3. It was they had 2 years where they played in Arizona. It was like horrible. It was like the worst Q school course they could have played. The number that year was like 13, 14, 15 under or something stupid like that. The next year, the number ended up being 18 under, which if you finish 46th and you're 17 under or something, that's so disheartening. Like it was ridiculous that they played there. That place was way too easy. But I don't know why I was able to get through Q school that well, but it is just kind of riding high, and then kind of rolled that into playing Corn Ferry for a few years.
So did you get conditional status off of your final stage start, or did you have some starts guaranteed?
Yeah, so that first year, since I missed by like 3 shots, I had conditional. Like if you miss, you get conditional regardless, but I wasn't going to get any starts. And so I went and started doing Mondays, and I don't know what it is mentally with me, but I've always been pretty comfortable in Mondays because it's just like I play kind of free, and I ended up Mondaying in 3 times in like my first 6 tries or something. Made a couple cuts there and that got me through a reshuffle. So about like I missed probably like the first 8 events of the year, and then Mondayed in like 3 times in 4 weeks. And then after that, there was a reshuffle, and I like played most of the rest of the season. So I played about half the season. Didn't play well, but learned a lot. Didn't really have any like top finishes. I think I was probably like 140 on the points list, 120, 130. I don't know. Nowhere near anything. So I ended up having to go back to first stage the next year. And then again, kind of blitz Irish Creek, went to a different place. And that's when I finally found out that like Q school, like that second stage, I played decent, but like I was only like, I think I was probably 10 to 15 shots up on the number going into the final round, like every day, every other time I played Q school. So there was not like the stress. That last time I was like 4 or 5 up on the number, and I was playing fine, and then took like a horrendous double on like the 14th hole. And those last 4 holes were like the most miserable golf I've ever played in my life because I thought I was like only 2 up on the number or something. And that's probably the most uncomfortable I've ever been on a golf course. And so then I kind of realized why Q school is awful for people mentally. But I got through there and then went to final stage. And I was actually one of the guys that shot 17 under that year and didn't get starts, missed by one. But enough guys skipped Exuma, the Bahamas event that starts the year, because it's like dumb expensive, that I actually ended up getting into that tournament on like Monday or Tuesday. Finished top 25 that week. So I got the next week, made a cut that week, and then managed to sneak in the next tournament, which was in Bogota, Colombia, because there's 2 courses there, so it's a bigger field. Finished like 5th that week. So I ended up getting in the whole season and finished like 60 something on points. So I didn't have to go to Q school after that. I kept my Corn Ferry card. And then the next season is when I got my PGA Tour card, although that was the COVID year, so it was a 2-year long season before I got my PGA Tour card.
That's a lot of time out there. It's a lot of time, trying to get status. And then, but still for a lot of guys, like plenty of guys go longer than that and don't get status. What was your mindset going into that? Some guys, like there's lots of things that can keep you from being able to play forever. What was your mindset as far as had you said, hey, I'm just going to do this until I die, we'll see what happens? Or was there like a timeline before you'd gone to Q school, et cetera, where you said, all right, if like in 5 years, 10 years, I don't see any fruit from this, then I probably need to find some other job?
Yeah. As far as like plan B options, like I had graduated from school, I had a degree, but like I didn't really want to do anything else. Like nothing it's like been super appealing to me as far as jobs. So I didn't really have like a timeline. Like obviously like if money started being an issue, like that was going to be a timeline. But like I kind of, as long as I was getting better, as long as like I was working at it and felt like I was actually improving, like I was going to keep going for it. Because like, especially with the first year, like getting to final stage, like I knew I was better the second year than I was the first year. And so like if I'd gotten that far that year, then why couldn't I get farther the next year? And then, I kept my card. Like if I could do that once, like why couldn't I do that again on courses that I've already played? And like I'm getting more used to it and getting better. So there was always like a little bit of progression for me that just kind of, I never really like, thought about quitting or was worried. I guess the only time that was like not so great was that first year when I only had conditional and I was going to have to chase Mondays. Like Mondays get pretty dumb expensive and that's a tough grind. Like you don't have really a place to play. So that was, I guess, where it was like maybe looking kind of not so great. But like I was playing good golf at the time too. So it was not like a super concern. And especially once I started like Mondaying in, like that was pretty freeing because then I knew I would, have a decent chance of shuffling it.
Yeah, I know you mentioned earlier, you said Mondays kind of free you up, and that's obviously a really good mindset to have. But what can you attribute to just being able to go free into Mondays? Because I think a lot of guys would be like, I have conditional status, I don't have any starts, and if I don't shoot 64 today, I'm screwed.
I don't know why. I mean, I just Mondayed into Shriners a couple weeks back. I think I've Mondayed in 8 times on about 20 attempts, which stacks up to pretty much anybody. I don't care. TJ Vogel, Chip McDaniel, Patrick Reed, like top Monday qualifying guys. Like, I think I might be like up there with it. I don't know why. I think I get on some of these easier courses where they have the Monday, and I know you got to go low, but like, I don't know. Sometimes it's nice to get to actually play an easier course in competition. Like all I play on tour is like these tough, brutal courses, and I get on one of these, and I'm like, wait, you mean I get to have a wedge in every hole? Like, you mean I can hit a 5-iron into a par 5? Like, I don't know. Like when I go into them, I'm just like, I don't think about like exactly what I got to shoot. Like I usually have a number in my head that I want to get to, but like all I want to do is just maximize birdie opportunities. Like I don't care what the hole is. Like as long as I'm giving myself birdie opportunities, if I start seeing some putts go in, like I don't know, it's kind of like a switch that flips. Like literally at the Shriners one, I shot 9 under. I think the number ended up being like 7 under, but I made a putt on the 9th hole, and once I made it, I kind of knew I was getting in. Like I don't know why. There's like a switch that flips. Like I just kind of like, I knew it was kind of like one of those days, and like I was just like not going to get my own way. I was just going to kind of let the putter work and play the right shots. And I don't know, mentally, I'm just comfortable in them because like if you don't get through, it's no pressure. Like nobody's gonna be like, how did you not get through that Monday? Like it's a hard thing to do, but I don't know. I'm comfortable in them, and I just whatever happens, and go play pretty free golf.
You said that as long as you kept getting better, you were going to keep playing. We talked a little bit about what instruction looked like for you when you were a kid. Now that you're playing on tour, what does instruction and coaching look like for you?
Yeah, I'm still with the same coach from like 7th grade when we went and got with the local guy. So we definitely work on like a little bit different things, but it's the same guy. Like we still do some of the same things from like when we started. It's not anything crazy different. You know, time to time I've got different issues going on, but for me, it's pretty comfortable to what I've always done, which is nice. I can call him and tell him, you know, hey, this is what the ball's doing, and he can give me like 2 or 3 options of what I'm probably doing. Like he knows my swing better than anybody, and I know what he's talking about when he's explaining me something. He can be like, hey, like remember back in college when you were doing this? Like I want you to start doing this drill to try and clean that up. So it's definitely like a level of comfort there, but like it's also worked. Like I know we work well, so it's just about putting effort in and grinding. Like I talked about like improving. Like you can't just look like week to week with improving. Like golf isn't like that. Like you're not just going to get better every single week. Like you're going to have some off weeks. You got to look at it in like scopes of 4 months, 6 months, 12 months. Like is there progress? Is there a progression? And that's kind of what I work towards. Showing improvement over long stretches of time. Like same thing with putting. Like you can't just be like have an off week and be like, oh, I got to change all my putting. Like no, you got to look at, you're not going to putt well every week. Like over a span of 3 months, if you have 3 really good putting events and some other solid ones, that's you're putting well. Like that's a good thing. Like it's golf. There's variance. Like there's always going to be like regression to means and stuff. But as long as you have that mean, like improving steadily, like there's going to be variance within it, but like improving your range of outcomes, I guess, is the best way I can explain it. And that's, how I try and look at things.
Yeah, you mentioned you work with the same guy from 7th grade. I know a lot of guys out on tour, and I noticed this when I was caddying for Ashton, that they'll bring 6, 7 guys out there with them. They'll bring mental coach, putting coach, swing coach, caddy, girlfriend. All these people are out there with them. Has it been hard to just stick with that one guy, or do you bring other people with you on the road?
Yeah, there's been times where like people are like, maybe you should see somebody else, or maybe you should do this or that. For me, like, not really. I know what works. Like, yeah, I'm gonna have bad weeks. Yeah, I'm gonna be struggling at times, but like, I've never like not gotten it fixed or not been able to put the work in and get back to where it needs to be or improve on something. So, I know I love my boy Akshay. He's my boy, but I've never seen him at a tournament with less than like 5 people around.
That was the one.
And
that was like, the one person I was thinking of when I was saying that.
I know. That's my guy. I love him a lot, but yeah, it's some guys are like that. That's how they got to function. Like Hideki, he's got his guys all the time. He's a Strixon guy. There's literally a Strixon rep dedicated to Hideki. Like that's what he does. And he's just the tinkerer, and he's always got guys with him, and he'll have a thought on the range on Wednesday afternoon, and they'll go build the club up and see if it works. Like that's how some guys do it. Me, I'm like, I'll have me and my caddy, my coach will show up every once in a while, and I'm going to go grind and do my tournament prep, and that's what I'm going to do. So I think like for different people, it works different ways. And I don't know, I've always just, I'll put the work in like regardless. And then if I need it, if I need the help, I can call him and he'll be there.
When it comes to tournament prep, putting in that work, Tell us what that looks like for you and your caddy.
So Mondays, usually like travel days. If it works, I like to be able to get out there, register, do all like the in-house stuff, I guess. And then if I can putt and maybe hit some balls, I will. I like trying to get some putting out on Monday if possible, just to see where the green speeds are at. I mean, they may change throughout the week, but just to see how they're rolling, especially if I've been there in the past. To like if they're okay, this is what Monday usually is. I know it's probably going to be like Thursday's how Thursday usually is, sort of thing. Tuesday, I'm usually an early practice round guy. I don't, I'll play with people, but like I'm not going to go out of my way to make sure I'm playing with somebody. Like whoever's there, I'll play with them, whatever, but I'm going to do my work. So we usually go out around like 8 a.m., try and get them all in. It depends on some weeks it might only be 9 because then I'll get like 9 in the pro on Wednesday. If I played there a bunch, like I may not need to like see all of them on Tuesday, but we'll go play, come back, and get to work. I'll hit some balls, a lot of short game, putting. Probably, I would say Tuesdays are more like swing work and hitting balls though. And then Wednesdays, usually pro-am, a lot more short game. Usually, greens have firmed up. They're getting a little closer to speed. So a lot of short game Wednesday, a lot of putting Wednesday, like speed work, because that's, usually closer to what you'll see speed-wise during the tournament. And then also hitting some balls Wednesday. And then Thursday's go time.
One of the things that we see a lot of people make mistakes at frankly, every level I think it's still done, is not knowing what the hell you're doing in a practice round. And everyone goes out there everyone can go out there for different reasons, but I think especially in junior golf, you see it most, like practice rounds are a lot of times just wasted energy. They're not focusing on the right things. Tell us, when you go out for a practice round, what you're focusing on.
Yeah, so most of the time I play a practice round like straight up like a practice round. I'll get some like money matches every once in a while, but usually that's only if it's like a course that I've played, like it's my third year playing there, and I know the course, then I might get in something like that. But usually like a practice round, they give us, my caddy will get the sheet from in the caddy dining area that has the pins from the previous year. So we kind of know where the pins will be. If I've played there before, I also kind of can have an idea of like what they'll do as far as that. And then it's just like talking through, where pins are going to be, how we want to attack them, where we should attack them from. So a lot of like start lines off tees, deciding like where's the best place to miss, and then around the greens, where is okay to be. So like certain pins, I'll take some balls, throw them around the green somewhere, or off the green, and be like, all right, is this like a reasonable place to get up and down from? And then my caddy will, he'll put an X and a void, okay. Like he'll usually mark down where's okay to where. So we just have a general idea of like when I'm, during the tournament, 160 yards out, like maybe a decent number to a certain pin, can I go after it? Like if it's like kind of 50-50 one, like how bad is the miss if I go after this one? Like, can I get away with it? Is it probably smart to just give myself like 15, 20 feet and give it a go from there? So just trying to take in basically all the data we can so I can make like the best decisions I can during the tournament based on how I feel I can play to certain pins or from certain areas.
That makes sense. So once you get into the tournament, there's a lot of energy, effort that gets expended. You said that you're a guy who has started doing at least a little bit more lifting. I know you got some time in the gym in just a little bit. Tell us what that workout routine looks like over a course of a tournament week.
It depends like on the day. So like Tuesday's a different day than Wednesday. Like I'll be doing different things. And Monday can be different depending on how travel goes. But generally Tuesday's like a little bit more intensive than Wednesday. Wednesday's going to be like much more like functional based, like mobility. And then if it was like a long travel day, that might just be more how Tuesday turns out, because if I'm sitting in a plane for a while or a car for a while, I get tight. Like my hip flexibility is not very good. So I got to make sure to stay loose because if my hips get tight, I get I get back problems. I've had like knee problems just from like being tight. Like not nothing major, but like it's something I gotta like stay on top of. So I work with Randy Myers down here in St. Simon's. I know you had mentioned you talked to Greg Groves before. Him and Greg, I think, go way back with the TPI stuff. So, but yeah, I've been working with him for a while. You know, we've got our plans. They change like, you know, maybe every 4 to 6 months. We'll like have, you know, I'll be working with him and he'll come up with something like a little bit more like focused on what I need for that part of time. But like as far as like warm ups before tournament, like Thursday to Sunday, like before the round, that's like been pretty consistent for a while now. I kind of always just like have the same set of, you know, a few things I do that just like basically gets me hopefully in as close to the same position every day I show up. So I just have that level of consistency when I go play.
That is awesome. I know we're coming up on time, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. We haven't talked much. We've talked about, you know, how you got to the PGA Tour. We talked about what you do now that you're out there and kind of the tools that you've built and the team that you've built around you. Tell us some things that we wouldn't understand about being on tour unless we were there. Some things that surprised you about being there that you wouldn't have thought were that way.
I don't know if I've been like super surprised by tour. But I also don't know like really what my expectations would have been going into it. Like, I mean, I'd played Corn Ferry events, and so I knew how those were. Tour courses are definitely harder than Corn Ferry courses. I think one of the things like I wasn't super prepared for when I got to PGA Tour was like how firm some of the greens can get. That was not really something we saw much on Corn Ferry Tour a whole lot, and like I never saw in college. Like there was never green firmness in college at all. Like in college, you had the rangefinders, and if I shot 135, it was 135. Now I'll be at a tournament and the number is 192. Well, we got to be landing this thing like 182. And so then you're doing like conversions based on that. Like it's a lot more math, a lot more guessing involved at these PGA Tour events than maybe, you know, just point and shoot from before.
That is helpful to know. And I think that's interesting, not just to us, but probably to our guests. We talked with Marty Jurtson a while back, and one of the things he talked about that was interesting was in a vacuum, curving the ball one way or another really doesn't affect much as far as your scoring goes. All things being equal. So if you sit, I'll say it like this: if you hit onto soft greens where the ball just lands, etc., like your dispersion between a draw and a fade doesn't particularly change too much as far as how centered it is on your shot pattern. So it doesn't matter too much. And I think for people like me, never played on tour, and Cooper obviously never played on tour, caddied on Corn Ferry, but didn't see the same level of difficulty. The courses we play for the most part are kind of like that. You land your 190, you land the ball with 7-iron, 188. Maybe it rolls out a little bit, but it's not going to be going too much. Whereas, as you said, it rolls out there. And what Marty had said to us is actually the firmness of the greens is what makes curving the ball both ways so important. From what the data they've run over at Ping, the ability to work the ball both ways when the green is manifests itself when the green is hard. It lets you get closer to the hole, access holes that are otherwise harder to access. So like Robert McIntyre only cuts the ball, and if a pin's on the right, his strokes gained to that pin are really good. If a pin's on the left, they're terrible. Justin Thomas hits an average number of greens in regulation around, but his strokes gained ball striking or approach are better than average and what you would expect for someone who hit that many greens in regulations because of that factor of hitting the firm greens. So it's cool to see how that is at least modifies your strategy some and reflects what you've seen out there. So when it comes to playing out there. Tell us what you're doing in your free time. Like, are you hanging out with your caddy? Do you see him enough? And like, all right, I need to hang out with my wife. What does life look like?
My wife's been traveling a little bit more lately. So with her at tournaments, like definitely hanging out with her. Okay, you know, we'll hang out a bit, but we get plenty of time together on the course. So, it just depends. I'll do like some sporting events and stuff. I'm a big sports guy, so watching a lot of sports, going to sporting events, doing stuff like that. I try to, when I leave the golf course, kind of just like really leave. Like I don't want to like be thinking about a whole lot of that once I leave. I want to kind of check out, do something else. Like right now, I'll be going back watching football or something usually, but something to kind of get away from it and let me reset, especially if it was like a frustrating day. Need to like go cool off, do something else, get my mind off of a bit so I can reset and be in good headspace for the next day.
Do you find it hard to reset ever when you've had a tough day, or do you ever feel like pressure knowing that, okay, you got to go play good golf, but you also got to make a living and all that kind of stuff from playing that golf?
Yeah, it definitely can be hard to reset. Some days, I don't know what it is. Like some days it's easier to get over it and just like move past it and reset. And then some days, like some weeks, it's like not as easy. Like definitely this fall has been pretty stressful with how they changed the rules and stuff. I finished 102 at the end of the regular season, and I'm not guaranteed my tour card next year. Even though I finished 102 and had a pretty good year, and now I've played poorly this fall, and I'm kind of in danger of falling outside the 125, which has like kind of never been a thing before. So yeah, that's been definitely like stressful. And when there's a little bit more stress, sometimes your fuse gets a little bit shorter tempered, and frustration settles in. So like definitely there's been like fighting a little bit of that this fall. I don't think I've been as good this fall at like resetting, at moving on as I have in the past. So it's like definitely something that, I've got 2 more events this fall and I need good ones, and I'm going to have to kind of do a better job of just handling things these last 2 events.
Absolutely. We appreciate that insight, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. The last question we ask every guest is the same, and for you, it's going to be a 2-parter. So the first part is, if you could go back to yourself as a junior golfer and tell yourself just one thing, what would that one thing be? And the second part is, if you could tell a junior golfer just one thing, what would that one thing be?
So for myself, I wouldn't really like change anything. So I don't know what I would tell myself junior wise. Like it'd probably be something kind of lame, like just like keep having fun with it, like just kind of keep working. But I mean, I always kind of had fun with that. I was always working, so I wouldn't really like. I liked my path. I liked being kind of the underdog and being behind everybody and having something to look towards and be chasing all the time. That was good for me. But like, I guess that's kind of what I would tell like any junior golfer. Like, if you are behind, or if there's players that are better than you, like embrace that competition. Use that as like, I'm going to work hard enough to, go chase that down. Or if there's, somebody you can't beat or you don't think you can beat, like that's a good goal. Like chase after that. Like I was so blessed to have such good competition around me. Like that helped me improve so much. Like finding good competition for yourself is so nice. And if you don't have that, find a way to, have some level of competition. Like if you are beating everybody, find a way to make it harder for yourself in the sense that like, okay, yeah, like I can play my B game and win, but like I want to win by 5. Like set goals for yourself that, or set a standard for yourself that like forces you to get better, forces you to like be maybe a little bit uncomfortable on the course and have to like dig a little bit deeper. Because like eventually you get to levels where guys are better, like the competition's better. Like even if you're the best now, like eventually like, PGA Tour, they're good. Like, so being able to play with that level of comfort, like basically being able to handle that kind of situation of like, you know, being in a tight contested tournament against a good player is something you want to be comfortable with.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us. If people are trying to find you on social media, want to learn more about you, et cetera, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on X, Twitter, and Instagram at Andrew Novak Golf. I do not post much on Instagram, Twitter. Come talk to me. I'll say what's up. I do have a podcast with my buddy. We run a football podcast. It's at screenplay_podcast. Check that out if you want some NFL action. Football's a great sport, and we enjoy talking it. So you can catch me there as well.
Be sure to check out Andrew's podcast. Be sure to find him on social media. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please subscribe and leave a rating. And if you're listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe. This helps us get our message out to more people, help more people learn about tournament golf. And if you're trying to find us on social media, you can find us on Instagram at The Tournament Code and on X/Twitter, Tournament Code. As always, we appreciate you joining us and look forward to diving in deeper to what it takes to play elite tournament golf.